Shalom, giving all praise and glory to the Most High, power of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Welcome, everyone. As always, I'm going to start off with Colossians 3 and 17. And whatsoever you do in word or deed, do all by Hashem Mashiach Yahushua. Giving thanks to the Most High and the Father by Hashem Mashiach Yahushua. So all we say and do is going to be in the name of the anointed Savior. And we give praise and thanks to the Most High, power of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He's worthy to be praised for everything. Tonight I want to do a little history, go over a little history concerning Joab. And I want to look at 1 Kings 2 and 1. Go to the book of 1 Kings 2 and 1. First Kings 2 and 1. King David is just about ready to die. First Kings 2 and 1. Now the days of David drew nigh, drew near, that he should die. And he charged Solomon his son, saying, so King David is about to die. So he telling his son Solomon this. He said, I go the way of all the earth. Be thou strong, therefore, and show thyself a man. He told him, say, hey, be strong and show himself a man. And keep the charge of the Most High thy power. Most High power of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Jacob being the forefather of the 12 tribes of Israel. To walk in his ways and to keep his statutes and his commandments. Keep his laws, statutes, commandments. His rules and regulations. Okay? And his judgments. And his testimonies. As it is written in the law of Moses. That thou mayest prosper in all that thou doest. And whatsoever thou turneth thyself. Because the Most High, because a lot of people think because they're prospering, that is righteous in the eyes of the Most High. But he's telling them right, because go to Joshua 1 and 8. Joshua 1 and 8. It says, this book of the law shall not depart out of thy mouth, but thou shalt meditate therein on the laws of the Most High, day and night. Day and night. So we today could be looking at things and say, okay, that's just like what I read in the book concerning the things that we see today. That thou mayest observe to do according to all that is written therein. All that's written in the law of Moses that the Most High gave us. For then, when you meditate and concentrate on the Most High's rules and regulations, his laws, statutes, commandments, and judgments, and testimonies, day and night, he said, for then, when you do this, thou shalt make thy way prosperous. Thou shalt make thy way prosperous, and then thou shalt have good success in the eyes of the Most High. It's very important. You see? Because all success is not good in the eyes of the Most High. Because he reigned on the just and the unjust. Meaning he blessed the just and the unjust. So look at Ecclesiasticus 43 and 26. Ecclesiasticus 43 and 26. David's giving instruction to Solomon before he give up the spirit. Ecclesiastes 43 and 26 in the Apocrypha. It says, by him the end of them has prosperous success, and by his word all things consist. You see? So going back to 1 Kings 2, the second chapter, Verse 3, he told him, he said, and keep the charge of the Most High, thy power, your power. To walk in his ways, to keep his statutes and his commandments and his judgments and his testimonies, as it is written in the law of Moses, that thou mayest prosper in all that thou doest, and whithersoever thou turnest thyself, that the Most High may continue his word, which he spake concerning me, saying, if thy children take heed to their way, I mean, we watch what we do, as the Israelites, to walk before me in truth. Now, we know what the truth is. Everybody should know that by now. In truth, what's that? Psalms 119, 142. Thy righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, and thy law is the truth. So he's telling us to walk in his laws and commandments, to walk before me in truth, with all their heart, all your mind, and with all their soul, all your spirit. There shall not fail thee, said he, a man on the throne of Israel. See? That's why even Mashiach came out of the tribe of Judah, out of King David's lineage. Moreover, thou shalt know it also that Joab, topic that we're dealing with, a little bit concerning Joab, dealing with history. Moreover, thou knowest also what Joab, the son of Zeruiah, did to me, and what he did to the two captains of the hosts of armies of Israel, under Abner, the son of Ner, and unto Amasa, the son of Jether, whom he slew, and shed the blood of war and peace, and put the blood of war upon his girdle that was about his loins, and in his shoes that were on his feet. Hear what he's saying. See, don't forget about Joab. See, Joab also killed his son Absalom. He killed a lot of people. He said, don't tell you, listen what he said. Verse 6, do therefore according to thy wisdom, and let not his hoar hair go down to the grave in peace. Let him know, don't let him go down as an old man. Don't let him go to the grave in peace. Absalom, his son, Abner, Amasa. He was something else. See? Joab. Israelite, right? So he said, don't forget about him. Don't let him go to the grave in peace, he told him. Let's look at 2 Samuel 2 and 17. 2 Samuel 2:17. See, we have, it's the same as it was then. Ain't nothing new under the sun. You still have those that are in that same type of spirit against their own people. 2 Samuel, the 2nd chapter, verse 17. And there was a very sore battle that day, and Abner was beaten, and the men of Israel before the servants of David war with each other. And there were 3 sons of Jeruah there, Joab, and Abishai, and Azael. And Azael was as light of foot as a wild roe. He could run just as fast as a deer. Very fast. And Asael pursued after Abner, and in going he turned not to the right hand nor to the left from following Abner. So he's chasing him. Chasing Abner. Then Abner looked behind him and said, art thou Asael? And he answered, I am. And Abner said to him, turn thee aside to thy right hand or to thy left. Stop following me. In other words, and lay thee hold on one of the young men Go after one of the young men and take thee his armor. Take his armor. But Asael would not turn aside from following of him. And Abner said again to Asael, turn thee aside from following me. Stop following me. Wherefore should I smite thee to the ground? How then should I hold up my face to Joab, thy brother? See, how much, face Joab if I kill you? Howbeit he refused to turn aside. He refused to stop pursuing him. Wherefore Abner, with the hinder end of the spear, smote him under the fifth rib. Smote him under the fifth rib, that the spear came out behind him, all the way through him. And he fell down there and died in the same place. And it came to pass that as many as came to the place where Asahel fell down and died stood still. Joab also and Abishai pursued after Abner. And the sun went down when they would come to the hill of Ammah, and lie before Giah by the way of the wilderness of Gibeon. And the children of Benjamin gathered themselves together after Abner, and became one troop, and stood on the top of an hill. It's the Jamaicans, so-called tribe of Benjamin. Then Abner called to Joab and said, shall the sword devour forever? Go have war forever? Knowest thou not that it will be bitterness in the latter end? How long shall it be then ere thou bid the people return from following their brethren? Stop slaying our brothers. We brothers. Same nation. The 12 tribes of Israel. And Joab said, as the Most High liveth, unless thou hast spoken, surely then in the morning, the people had gone up every one from following his brother. So Joab blew a trumpet, and all the people stood still, and pursued after Israel no more, neither fought they any more. And Abner and his men walked all that night through the plain, and passed over Jordan, and went through all Rithwan, and they came to Mahanaim. And Joab returned from following Abner, and when he had gathered all the people together, they lacked of David's servants 19 men and Azel. But the servants of David had smitten of Benjamin and of Abner's men, so that 360 men died. 300, a score is 20, so 360 men died. And they took up Azel and buried him in the scepter of his father, which was in Bethlehem. And Joab and his men went all night, and they came to Hebron at break of day. Now, let's look at 2 Samuel's 3rd chapter and verse 12. And Abner sent messengers to David on his behalf, saying, whose is the land? Who is the land belong to? Saying also, make thy league with me, join with me. And behold, my hand shall be with thee, to bring about all Israel unto me. Say, join, be unto me. He ready to get Israel, all Israel together. Trying to work a treaty. King David. And he said, well, I will make a league with thee. But one thing I require of thee, that is, thou shalt not see my face, except thou first bring Michal, Saul's daughter, when thou comest to see my face. So he said, hey, bring Michal, Saul's daughter, because she was promised to him, to King David. But King Saul gave his daughter to David to put a thorn in his side. She was something else. And David sent messengers to Ishbosheth, Saul's son, saying, deliver me my wife, Michal, which I espoused to me for 100 foreskins of the Philistines. That's what he had to go out there and kill 100 Philistines and bring their foreskins to Saul for his daughter Michal. 100 foreskins. And Ishbosheth sent and took her from her husband, even from Phathiel, the son of Laish. And her husband went with her along, weeping behind her to Bahurim. Then said Abner unto him, go return. And he returned. He was going behind him crying. You taking my wife? You taking my woman? Because she was supposed to be, she was given to David, but she ended up going with this cat. He crying behind him. He said, hey, go home. Get over her. And Abner had communication with the elders of Israel, saying, ye sought for David in times past to be king over you. Now then, do it. For the Most High has spoken of David, saying, by the hand of my servant David, I will save my people Israel out of the hand of the Philistines and out of the hand of all their enemies. David was a mighty warrior. And Abner also spake in the ears of Benjamin. And Abner went also to speak in the ears of David in Hebron, all that seemed good to Israel, and that seemed good to the whole house of Benjamin. So he playing on both sides. So Abner came to David to Hebron, and 20 men with him. And David made Abner and the men that were with him a feast. So he made a feast for him. And Abner said unto David, I will arise and go, and will gather all Israel unto my master the king, that they may make a league with thee. They're going to be on your side. They're going to be rolling with you. And that thou mayest reign over all that thine heart desires. And David sent Abner away, and he went in peace. So he sent him away. He's trying to make all Israel be together on the side of David. And behold, the servants of David and Joab came from pursuing the troop, and brought in a great spoil with them. But Abner was not with David in Hebron, for he had sent him away, and he was gone in peace. So when Joab and all the host that was with him were come, they told Joab, saying, Abner the son of Ner came to the king, and he have sent him away, and he is gone in peace. Somebody always ratting out, right? Saying what's going on. When Joab and all the hosts that was with him would come, they told Joab, saying, Abner the son of Ner came to the king, and he have sent him away, and he's gone in peace. Then Joab came to the king and said, what hast thou done? Behold, Abner came unto thee. Why is it that thou hast sent him away, and he is quite gone? Thou know of Abner the son of Ner, that he came to deceive thee, and to know thy going out and thy coming in, and to know all that thou doest. He just come to spy on you, he's saying. He ain't trying to be really down with you. And when Joab was come out from David, he sent messengers after Abner, which brought him again from the well of Sirah. But David knew it not. He didn't tell David. He's operating on his own. And when Abner was returned to Hebron, Joab took him aside in the gate to speak with him quietly. Come over here, I want to talk to you. Away from everybody. And smote him there under the fifth rib. Killed him, stabbed him under the fifth rib. That he died for the blood of Asahel, his brother. And he told him to stop following him. He kept following him. He said, go after one of the young men. No, he kept following him. He took that sword and went behind him and got him in that fifth rib. So he killed him. He was killed in the fifth rib. And afterward, when David heard it, he said, I and my kingdom are guiltless before the Most High forever from the blood of Abner the son of Ner. See, I have nothing to do with this. Let it rest on the head of Joab. Let it be on Joab and on all his father's house. And let there not fail from the house of Joab one that hath an issue. or that is a leper, or that leaneth on a staff, or that falleth on a sword, or that lacketh bread. So Joab and Abishai, his brother, slew Abner, because he had slain their brother Asahel at Gibeon in the battle. And David said to Joab and to all the people that were with him, rend your clothes. That's what we used to do when we were sad. We tore our clothes. Rend your clothes. And gird you with sackcloth. Put on sackcloth like burlap. And mourn before Abner. And King David himself followed the bier. And they buried Abner in Hebron. And the king lifted up his voice and wept at the grave of Abner, and all the people wept. And the king lamented over Abner and said, died Abner as a fool dieth. Thy hands were not bound, nor thy feet put into fetters, as a man falleth before wicked men. So fellest thou. And all the people wept again over him. When all the people came to cause David to eat meat, while it was yet day, David sware, saying, so do the Most High to me, and more also, if I taste bread or aught else till the sun be down. So I ain't tasting nothing. I don't want anything. I'm not eating anything till the sun be down. And all the people took notice of it, and it pleased them, as whatever the king did pleased all the people. For all the people in all Israel understood that day that it was not of the king to slay Abner the son of Ner. It wasn't his idea. It wasn't in his spirit to kill Abner. And the king said unto his servants, know ye not that there is a prince and a great man fallen this day in Israel? And I am this day weak, though anointed king. And these men, the sons of Zeruiah, beat out hard for me. The Most High shall reward the doer of evil according to his wickedness. Oh yeah. Let's go to jump over to 2 Samuel, the 18th chapter. We're gonna read down from verse 1. And David numbered the people that were with him, and set captains of thousands and captains of hundreds over them. See, that's order. Setting up the order. And David sent forth a third part of the people under the hand of Joab, and a third part under the hand of Abishai, the son of Zeruiah, Joab's brother, and a third part under the hand of Ittai, the Gittite. And the king said unto the people, I will surely go forth with you myself also. So I'm going with you. But the people answered, thou shalt not go forth. No, you're not going. You're the king. You're not going forth. If we flee away, they will not care for us. Neither if half of us die, will they care for us? But now that thou art worth 10,000 of us. Hear what he said? Remember the lady was singing? Saul killed thousands, David killed tens of thousands. Say, thou art worth 10,000 of us. Hear that? But now thou art worth 10,000 of us. David was worth 10,000s of the mighty men, warriors. Therefore now it is better that thou secure us out of the city. And the king said unto them, what seemeth you best I do? I will do. So whatever you want, I will do. And the king stood by the gate side, and all the people came out by hundreds and by thousands. And the king commanded Joab and Abishai and Ittai, saying, deal gently for my sake with the young man, even with Absalom. And all the people heard when the king gave all the captains charge concerning Absalom. That's his son. Absalom is King David's son. So the people went out into the field against Israel, and the battle was in the wood of Ephraim, where the people of Israel were slain before the servants of David, and there was there a great slaughter that day of 20,000 men. 20,000 men were slaughtered. by King David's men. Mind you, they're in northern Israel. For the battle was there, scattered over the face of all the country, and the wood devoured more people than they. And the wood devoured more people that day than the sword devoured. Wow. Say the woods destroyed more people than the sword that day. And Absalom met the servants of David, and Absalom rode upon a mule. And the mule went under the thick boughs of a great oak. So the mule, he on a mule, and he went under the thick boughs of an oak tree. And his head caught hold of the oak. That means his hair got caught up in this oak tree. And he was taken up between the heaven and the earth. So he's hanging in the tree by his hair. And the mule that was under him went away. So the mule kept going, and he stuck in the tree, hanging by his hair. And a certain man saw it, somebody saw it, and told Joab, snitch again, and said, behold, I saw Absalom hanged in an oak. He had a lot of hair. Absalom had a lot of hair. For him to be hanging in the tree by his hair. He said, a certain man saw it, verse 10, and told Joab and said, behold, I saw Absalom hanging in an oak. And Joab said unto the man that told him, and behold, thou sawest him? And why didst thou not smite him there to the ground? Why you ain't kill him? Let him fall to the ground. And I would have given thee 10 shekels of silver and a girdle. And the man said unto Joab, though I should receive 1,000 shekels of silver in mine hand, yet would I not put forth mine hand against the king's son. Say, though you give me 1,000 shekels in my hand, I wouldn't put my hand against the king's son. Absalom is King David's son. For in our hearing the king charged thee and Abishai and Ittai, saying, beware that none touch the young man Absalom. You tell him, hey, King David told you not to touch his son Absalom, the young man, because Absalom was trying to be king too. Otherwise, I should have wrought falsehood against mine own life. But there was no matter hid from the king. You know everything. You're going to find out. And thou thyself would have set thyself against me. So you would even went against me if I'd have did that. Then said Joab, I may not tarry thus with thee. And he took 3 darts in his hand, 3 darts in his hand, and thrust them through the heart of Absalom. Boom, boom, boom. And thrust them through the heart of Absalom while he was yet alive in the midst of the oak, hanging in that tree by his hair. And 10 young men that bare Joab's armor compassed about and smote Absalom and slew him. And Joab blew the trumpet, and the people returned from pursuing after Israel. But Joab held back the people, held them back. And they took Absalom and cast him into a great pit in the wood, and laid a very great heap of stones upon him. And all Israel fled, every one to his tent. Put some stones over Absalom, King David's son. Everybody ran back to their tent. Now Absalom, in his lifetime, had taken and reared up for himself a pillar, which is in the king's dale. For he said, I have no son to keep my name in remembrance. And he called the pillar after his own name, and it is called unto this day Absalom's place. Then said Ahimaaz, the son of Zadok, let me now run and bear the king tidings, how that the Most High have avenged him of his enemies. And Joab said unto him, thou shalt not bear tidings this day, but thou shalt bear tidings another day. But this day thou shalt bear no tidings, because the king's son is dead. So he going to the king. The king's son is dead. I done killed Absalom. Then said Joab to Cushi, go tell the king what thou hast seen. And Cushi bowed himself under Joab and ran. Then said Ahimaaz, the son of Zadok, yet again to Joab, but howsoever, let me, I pray thee, also run with Cushi. And Joab said, wherefore wilt thou run, my son, seeing that thou hast no tidings ready? But howsoever, said he, let me run. And he said unto him, run. Then Ahimaaz ran by the way of the plain and overran Cushi. You remember, you got to look at it, you know. Who the fastest man in the world? It's us. You remember, he could run faster than, they could run faster than a deer. He had already gone. Cushi had already gone. He said, let me run. He caught up to him and passed him up. And David sat between the two gates. And the watchman went up to the roof over the gate unto the wall, and lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, a man running along, say on the top of the wall, and they looked, they see him running. And the watchman cried and told the king. And the king said, if he be alone, there is tidings in his mouth. And he came apace and drew near. And the watchman saw another man running, Cushi, behind him. And the watchman called unto the porter and said, behold, another man running along. And the king said, he also bringeth tidings. He also bringing tidings. And the watchman said, methinketh the running of the foremost is like the running of Ahimaaz, the son of Zadok. And the king said, he is a good man, and cometh with good tidings. And Ahimaaz called and said unto the king, all is well. And he fell down to the earth upon his face before the king and said, blessed be the Most High power, thy power, which have delivered up the men that lifted up their hand against my master the king. And the king said, is the young man Absalom safe? That's his son. First thing he asked him, he just said all that. He said, hey, is Absalom my son safe? And Ahimaaz answered, when Joab sent the king's servant, and me thy servant, I saw a great turmoil, but I knew not what it was. See the great uproar, I didn't know what it was. Riding, and the king said unto him, turn aside and stand here. And he turned aside and stood still. He turned aside and stayed over here. He done told that story. So you stand over here and don't move. In other words, and behold, Cushi came. And Cushi said, tidings, my master, the king. Most I have avenged thee this day of all them that rose up against thee. And the king said unto Cushi, is the young man Absalom safe? In other words, is my son safe? Is my son Absalom safe? And Cushi answered, the enemies of my master the king, and all that rise against thee to do thee hurt, be as that young man is. And the king was much moved, and went up to the chamber over the gate, and wept. And as he went, thus he said, O my son Absalom, my son Absalom, with the Most High I had died for thee. O Absalom, my son, my son. He's crying over losing his son. It's cold. But they heard. And King David told the three generals, don't kill my son Absalom. Look at that was war between we as the Israelites going at it. You see how Joab went against King David's order to leave Absalom alone. Let's look at 2 Samuel 15. And let's start at verse 32. And it came to pass that when David was come to the top of the mount where he worshipped the Most High, behold, Uzziah the Archite came to meet him with his coat rent. His coat is rent. And earth upon his head. Like I said, when we were sad, we would tear our clothes and we put earth on top of our head. And whom David said, if thou passest on with me, then thou shalt be a burden unto me. But if thou return to the city and say unto Absalom, I will be thy servant, O king, as I have been thy father's servant hitherto. So will I now also be thy servant. Say, hey, go tell my son, you're going to be his servant, as he was a servant with King David. Then mayest thou for me defeat the counsel of Ahithophel. See, this dude, Ahithophel, he was a straight Sambo. And as thou not there with thee, Zadok and Abiathar, the priests, therefore it shall be that what things soever thou shalt hear out of the king's house, thou shalt tell it to Zadok and Abiathar the priest. Behold, they have there with them their two sons, Ahimaaz, Zadok's son, and Jonathan, Abiathar's son. And by them ye shall send unto me everything that ye can hear. Whatever you hear, bring it back to me. So Hushai, David's friend, came into the city, and Absalom came into Jerusalem. So from there we're going to look at second, because Ahimaaz, he was down with David, not Joab. Let's look at 2 Samuel 18 and 19. Then said Ahimaaz, the son of Zadok, let me now run and bear the king tidings, how that the Most High have avenged him of his enemies. He's playing with him. Let me go and tell him this. And Joab said unto him, thou shalt not bear tidings this day, but thou shalt bear tidings another day. You ain't bearing no tidings this day, but you're going to bear tidings another day. But this day thou shalt bear no tidings, because the king's son is dead. So you can't go and bear any tidings because he done killed Joab. He done killed Absalom. Joab killed Absalom. He didn't want him to go tell David, because he was down with David, you know. He would have told him, hey, this dude just killed your son. So let's look at 2 Samuel 19th chapter. And look at verse 13. He said, and say ye to Amasa, art thou not of my bone and of my flesh? The Most High do so to me, and more also, if thou be not captain of the host before me continually in the room of Joab, to take Joab's place. And he bowed the heart of all the men of Judah, even as the heart of one man. They all in agreement together, so that they sent this word unto the king, return thou and all thy servants. So the king returned and came to Jordan. And Judah came to Gilgal to go to meet the king, to conduct the king over Jordan, escort him over to Jordan. And Simeon, the son of Zerah, a Benjamite, which was of Behurim, hasted and came down with the men of Judah to meet King David. Because generally it was Judah, Benjamin, and Levi hanging together, but we're dealing right now with all 12 tribes together. And there were during the time of King David and King Solomon also. So it says, and there were 1,000 men of Benjamin with him, and Ziba, the servant of the house of Saul, and his 15 sons, and his 20 servants with him. And they went over Jordan before the king. And there went over a ferry boat to carry over the king's household, and to do what he thought good. So this ferry boat carrying his king's household, the things that he had over the water. And Shimei, the son of Serah, fell down before the king as he was come over Jordan. So when he came over to Jordan, he fell down in front of the king and said unto the king, let not my master impute iniquity unto me, wickedness unto me. Neither do thou remember that which thy servant did perversely the day that my master the king went out of Jerusalem, that the king should take it to his heart. He's begging him, don't take it to heart. Forget about it, what I did. For thy servant does know that I have sinned. See, I know that I've sinned. Therefore, behold, I am come the first this day of all the house of Joseph to go down to meet my master the king. But Abijah, the son of Zeruiah, answered and said, shall not Shimei be put to death for this? Because he cursed the Most High's anointed. And David said, what have I to do with you, ye sons of Zeruiah, that ye should this day be adversaries unto me, be enemies unto me? Shall there any man be put to death this day in Israel? For do not I know that I am this day king over Israel? Therefore the king said unto Shimei, thou shalt not die. And the king sware unto him. And Mephibosheth, what is that? That's mercy. He gave him mercy. That's why we have to look at what our ancestors did and give each other mercy. He gave him mercy. To the point where he thought he was going to kill him. But King David gave him mercy. Therefore the king said unto Shimei, thou shalt not die. And the king sware unto him. And Mephibosheth, the son of Saul, came down to meet the king, and had neither dressed his feet, nor trimmed his beard, nor washed his clothes, from the day the king departed until the day he came again in peace. So he looking pretty raggedy, raunchy. And it came to pass, when he was come to Jerusalem to meet the king, that the king said unto him, wherefore wentest not thou with me, Mephibosheth? And he answered, my master, O king, my servant deceived me. But thy servant said, I will saddle me an ass, that I may ride thereon, and go to the king, because thy servant is lame. And he hath slandered thy servant unto my master, the king. But my master, the king, is an angel of the Most High. He really landed all right. He said, King David is an angel of the Most High. Do therefore what is good in thine eyes. For all of my father's house were but dead men before my master the king. Yet didst thou set thy servant among them that did eat at thine own table. What right therefore have I yet to cry any more unto the king? The king said unto him, why speakest thou any more of thy matters? I have said, thou and Ziba divide the land. So I told you, divide the land. And Mephibosheth said unto the king, yeah, let him take all. For as much as my master the king is come again in peace unto his own house. So I'm going to jump to 2 Samuel 17 and 25. 2 Samuel 17 and 25. And Absalom made Amasa captain of the host instead of Joab. See, Absalom, he made Amasa captain of the host instead of Joab. So here go that jealousy thing with Joab, which Amasa was a man's son, whose name was Ithra, an Israelite, that went in to Abigail, the daughter of Nahash, sister to Zeruiah, Joab's mother. See? So Israel and Absalom pitched in the land of Gilead. And it came to pass when David was come to Mahanaim that Shopai, the son of Nahash of Rabbah of the children of Ammon, the indigenous or aboriginal Japanese people, and Mashir, the son of Amiel of Lodiban, and Barzillai, the Gilead of Rosemium, bought beds and basins and earthen vessels and wheat and barley and flour and parched corn and beans and lentils and parched pulse and honey and butter and sheep and cheese of kind for David. They bought all this for King David. And for the people that were with him to eat. For they said, the people is hungry and weary and thirsty in the wilderness. So from there we're going to look at, go to 2 Samuel 20 and 1. And there happened to be there a man of Belial, a man possessed with demons, possessed with Satan, whose name was Sheba, the son of Bershai, a Benjamite. And he blew a trumpet and said, we have no part in David. We ain't got nothing to do with King David. Neither have we inheritance in the son of Jesse. Every man to his tents, O Israel. So he said, hey, everybody go to their tents. Have nothing to do with King David. So every man of Israel went up from after David and followed Sheba, son of Bershai. But the men of Judah clave unto their king, from Jordan even to Jerusalem. So the men of Judah, they hanging out with King David. But the other tribes of Israel joined in this victory. And David came to his house at Jerusalem, and the king took the 10 women, his concubines, whom he had left to keep the house, and put them in ward. So he took the 10 concubines, his women, in safety in the ward, and fed them, gave them something to eat, but went not in unto them. He didn't go have sexual intercourse with them, meaning he didn't go into them. That's what that's talking about. So they were shut up until the day of their death, living in widowhood. You hear that? They were shut up to the day of their death, living in widowhood. You didn't have nothing to do with them. Then said the king of Amasa, assemble me the men of Judah within 3 days, and be thou here present. So Amasa went to assemble the men of Judah, but he tarried longer than the set time which he had appointed him. And David said to Abishai, now shall Sheba the son of Bishrai do us more harm than did Absalom. Here go another person coming up, want to be king, want to take his place, want his exaltation. The Most High done already exalted King David as king. Absalom want to be king. His son want to be king. Now this cat, Bishri, he trying to be king. And people following him. That thou master's servants and pursue after him, lest he get him fenced cities and escape us. Lest he build fenced cities like a fortress and escape them. And there went out after him Joab's men, and the Cherethites, and the Pelethites, and all the mighty men. And they went out of Jerusalem to pursue after Sheba, the son of Bishri. When they were at the great stone, which is in Gibeon, Amasa went before them, and Joab's garment that he had put on was girded up unto him, and upon it a girdle with a sword fastened upon his loins in the sheath thereof. And as he went forth, it fell out. So he had his sword in the sheath, and the sword fell out. And Joab said to Amasa, Art thou in health, my brother? And Joab took Amasa by the beard with the right hand to kiss him. Took him by his beard by the right hand to kiss him. But Amasa took no heed to the sword that was in Joab's hand. He said, hey, he didn't notice Joab had a sword in his hand. So he smote him therewith in the fifth rib, and shed out his bowels to the ground, and struck him not again. And he died. So Joab and Abishai, his brother, pursued after Sheba, the son of Bishri. And one of Joab's men stood by him and said, He that favoreth Joab, and he that is for David, let him go after Joab. Say, hey, don't you favor Joab? And who is those that favor King David? Whose side you on, in other words? And who you for King David, go after Joab. And Amasa wallowed in blood in the midst of the highway. And when the man saw that all the people stood still, he removed Amasa out of the highway into the field, and cast a cloth upon him, when he saw that every one that came by him stood still. See that nobody was trying to help Amasa at all. So he pulled him out of the highway into the field and covered him up, put a cloth over him. When he was removed out of the highway, all the people went on after Joab to pursue after Sheba, the son of Bishri. And he went through all the tribes of Israel unto Abel, and to Bethmachah, and all the Burites, and they were gathered together, and went also after him. And they came and besieged him in Abel and Bethmachah, and they cast up a bank against the city, and it stood in the trench. And all the people that were with Joab battered the wall, throw it down. They fight. They battering this wall to throw it down. They got a trench, they built a trench, and they banked against the city, and they hit against the wall to